Some pretty magnificent stuff, these guys, huh? Yeah, thank you. Please give them another hand. You know, I can tell that there's an immense amount of preparation, an immense amount of effort and energy that goes into a Sunday service. I'm feeling particularly blessed this morning because, you know, there's been an immense amount of preparation and energy in my own life. In August of 2010, I made an outrageous decision that I would enter into a ministerial internship program at Unity Church of Hawaii. And here's the really exciting, amazing thing about that. It wasn't fully established at the time. So for me, it was a matter of stepping out on faith, stepping out in courage in order to wonder what could possibly be next for me. What's fascinating is I moved from the mainland, and I had a number of friends of mine who would say, you need to get some guarantees. You need to find out what you're going to get as a result of going into this program. You need to get a certificate. You need to be certain that after you're done with this program, that you'll have a certificate of authenticity to show you that you, and at the same time, I'm like, something inside of me is telling me just to go, just to be there, just to step out in faith. And there were all the voices of doubt that were inside me and around me as well. But I knew that something wonderful was about to take place. All the planning and preparation that can go into a Sunday service is also the planning and preparation that can go into a career, a life. For that matter, it can take place in our culture. You see, when I came here in 2010, I was so excited about all the possibilities of what Unity had to teach to the whole world, about all the possibilities it had taught within me, and how I could step into greater health, greater abundance, greater prosperity, how I could step into a whole new way of being in the world in a courageous way. And as I said, there were doubts. And then there were more doubts. And then there were some more doubts. And then things didn't turn out the way we planned. And then we talked about how, well, you know, you may as well just give it up. Have you ever been in that situation in your life where things didn't turn out exactly as planned? Maybe something like that has shown up for you? Yeah, I'm not going to go into the details. For that matter, you don't probably need to go into the details either in your head. But you see, there's that place of faith and courage within you that has leaned every single one of us into a greater possibility every day. You know, one of the things that I notice is just as a result of turning on my Facebook news feed, or for that matter, in the event that I might accidentally watch a news channel, I can tell that the whole wide world is going to hell in a handbasket, right? All you got to do is watch your Facebook news feed, or for that matter, a news channel, for just a brief period of time, and you can see that it's all a huge mess. But here's what I get to know. Here's what I get to step into today. There's so much more than just simply the appearance. There is a place within me where that place of truth and possibility resides. I know that that's true for every single one of us. That each and every one of us have that place where a new possibility can be stepped up to, stepped into. So rather than watching the news releases and the presses that seem to be going on, let's recognize that we are prepared for infinite possibility. We are prepared for living with the divine surprise today. We are prepared for taking a deep breath and simply allowing life to be. At the age of 12, I received a calling to ministry. It didn't make sense to me at the time, but as a Baptist young person, I was pretty clear that this was something that was resonating within me, that it was something important for me to step into and be a minister. And then I discovered boys and marijuana. And I was clear the calling was not quite right. That maybe God intended to push a 9 and he pushed a 6 instead. And that's how I got the call. As life progressed and I understood that what was taking place for me was a pathway unexpected. We all expect that we can graph our life, that we're going to start at this, okay, this is what I'm envisioning, this is this amazing thing, and I'm going to see that my life is going to progress on this trajectory directly to my goal. And the way it usually happens is something that looks a little bit like this instead. What I can do today is recognize that place of faith within me, that place of where I doubt that those jerks and those stops and starts are not meant to slow me down. They're not meant to put me off the path. They're actually meant to bring me into an unforeseen and unexpected blessing. You see, that's what I believe that we're living in this world today. I believe that in every single way, despite what you may be able to discern from the Facebook news feed or the news channel, whichever one it is, we are living in amazing possibility for healing. We are living in an infinite possibility of digging out of where we might have buried ourselves, or we're in a place of digging out the treasure that already resides within us. Whatever that may be in your own life, I would encourage you to dig a little deeper and to be in spiritual community. This morning I was rather stunned and amazed. I'm actually sitting there thinking, wow, if dawn is the warm-up, I really need to bring my game. And then I realized that in the kingdom of God, there are no greater and lesser persons. That although we have this embedded theology and we have these judgments that seem to buffet us in our lives, the truth is that we can step into and step up to amazing wonder today. You see, that's what we believe in metaphysics. I have had the blessing over the course of these last few years of leading a spiritual community on the other side. And many of those people have oftentimes been interested in what Unity has to teach. And for that matter, I know that that's true here at Unity Church of Hawaii. There's a lot more excitement and fervor about that. But one of the things that I've discovered as being a leader of a ministry on the other side, and also a ministry in general, is that people hear that we're a metaphysical community. So a lady shared with me that she had been in conversation with somebody, that Unity is a metaphysical church, and her friend that she was in conversation with said, "What does that mean?" And her answer was, "I have no idea. But we're metaphysical." So it's important to recognize, what are we talking about when we're talking about metaphysical? What we're talking about is beyond the physical, which is literal. That's within the literal breaking apart or taking apart of the world. But metaphysical also means beyond the literal. It's beyond what seems to be evidence of my senses and evidence of what is apparent. You see, that place of metaphysical is that place beyond appearances. It's beyond our perception, what we taste, touch, feel, hear. And what can happen as a result of leaning into metaphysics is that it will upset us at depth. Because you see, as a result of that, we get an opportunity to reassess what it is we're perceiving, to come to a whole different conclusion about this. In my embedded theology, and when I grew up in the Baptist church, what I was told that anytime I came to the possibility of doubt, that I needed to remove that doubt. That if I was going to stand in faith, I had to stand in the certainty that God is here, that I had to stand that Jesus is saving me right now and has saved me for all eternity. That I needed to get rid of the doubt and instead live in the faith. Except that if I'm absolutely certain, is that really faith? If I have no negotiation and no belief other than what I'm holding on to, is that really faith? What's wonderful about the teachings of unity, for that matter, what's wonderful about every single one of our spiritual journeys, is that we have this amazing potential and possibility to live within the faith and the doubt and have it be buffeted, perhaps even within us or all around us, but stand firm in the truth that there's a divine idea that's being realized in my life, that something good is coming forth. For that matter, I am the good that's coming forth. That's true of you too. You are the good that's coming forth in this world. Tell that to your news feed or your news channel. Don't argue with them. There's no reason to disagree. Instead, stand in the truth that I am faith in action. Instead, stand in the belief and understanding that anything is possible. So even though this is the message that I was given as a young boy, that anytime a doubt should come forth, I needed to shift immediately into faith. Well, it was really certainty, but it was only certainty masquerading as faith. So you see, what happened in the time of the master teacher Jesus and the many, many people that he affected was that there was a whole new way of living life that was the good news. What we believe in unity is that Jesus taught that the good news resides in us. It is the life that lives in us and as us. So you see, there is a message that took place many centuries ago that were shared by a number of people as an oral tradition, but one of those messages is something known as the Gospel of Thomas. You know how you plan something and you know it's going to work? I think we started there, didn't we? I'm going to love this. I'm going to embrace this. And I'm going to know that Kathy's going to be helping me any second now. Yes, in the Gospel of Thomas, it is said, whoa! Those who seek should not stop seeking until they find. When they find, they will be disturbed. When they are disturbed, they will marvel, and they will rule over all. You know, the beautiful thing about this particular scripture is that most of us fit in this in a number of different places. For that matter, if you put on your Facebook news feed or your news channel, you're bound to get disturbed. But oddly enough and unfortunately enough, that's where a lot of us stop. The place that we can move into as a result of the good news is that place of wonder. I wonder what difference I can make in this situation. I wonder how I can be called to a greater ideal in what is taking place, and then I wonder how I might marvel and then rule over all. One of the things that's interesting is that the history of Christianity is such that there were only 4 Gospels, and those 4 Gospels were not, one of them was not the Gospel of Thomas. Principally because a lot of these concepts and these ideas were a little hard to understand. And not only that, they were empowering. And a lot of what might have been going on when they decided on those 4 particular Gospels was that we needed to get some power over these people and make sure that they understand something. We're going to grasp a hold of them. But what the Gospel of Thomas invites us into is a place where we recognize the power is with all of us. So in the event that the next time you think that you're disturbed about something that you've seen in the news, or that you can't pull your mask off when you thought for sure it was going to just zip right up, next time you're disturbed, I'm going to ask you to marvel and wonder. What good is coming forth for this now? How am I being built up into a new and infinite possibility? Because a lot of times what can take place is that if we feel as though we're in a hell of a mess, that's not the place to stop. The hell that we may experience in the world, in our lives, or in the fact that our plans didn't come across the way that we had hoped, can actually be a process that moves us into a greater way of being. Myrtle Fillmore, the co-founder of the Unity movement, once said that we understand hell to be a purifying process, which the soul goes through to rid it of dross and weakness. The purifying fire of spirit continues its work in us until we come forth free from all that does not measure up to the Christ standard. So one of the things that I can guess is that there's 2 or 3, maybe even 4 or 5 people who are sitting there, if they're even paying attention to the quote at this point, but thinking, dross. What is that? I've never heard that word. Myrtle was talking about the purifying process that takes place in metals. And when you dig up a metal, it usually is impure. It has some things around it, or actually in it, embedded in it, that have to be burned away. That's the hell that takes place within us in order to recognize the precious space that resides in you and in me. So you see, even though a lot of us have been told in our embedded theology, me in particular, was that hell was something that you wanted to avoid, what we recognize in Unity teachings is hell is something we want to embrace. We want to recognize what is going on right now that's burning up what is unlike the truth of me. What is going on in our world, in my life, that is releasing and letting go of what I'm not. Because you see, the truth is that you are a magnificent expression of divine. You are a divinity in this world, and you are here to change this world for the better. That is the truth of every single one of us. Lean into the doubt and trust that the faith of your divinity is going to bring forth a precious metal. Are you silver? Are you gold? Are you platinum? Are you aluminum? Because you see, there's a need, a necessity, a worth for every single one of those expressions. And whatever may be going on in our world today, let's commit to embrace it and discover, what is this teaching me today? What is this bringing forth into a greater good in me, in my friends, in my partners, in my church, in my world? In what way can this have an impact to purify me? So when you think it's hellish, yes, let's celebrate that. Let's discover the purifying process that's taking place in our world. I'm not saying that we're going to go around seeking suffering, although some of us have had that pattern before. I am saying that in the event that we recognize that suffering is taking place, it's an option. You can stay there. But the doubt that takes place of whether God has anything to do with this, the answer to that question's up to you. Myrtle Fillmore spoke to hell in this way as a purifying process by which we can awaken to a greater sense of who we are. Her husband, Charles Fillmore, spoke to how I find that I am in heaven right here on earth. I let go of the little self and take hold of the big self. Not my will, but thine be done. Not the will of the little bitty tiny self that only sees the effects of stuff. Only the little bitty physical stuff that I can see, touch, taste, hear, feel. But instead, something beyond that. I let go of the physical and I reach for the metaphysical. I reach for the divine ideas that are expressing in my life, such as love, possibility, comfort, compassion. I reach for and live in and express integrity, wonder, joy, and light. So you see, even though this seems like we're talking about a God outside of us, we're talking about the God that resides within us, that has impact and effect and delight and connection in our world. Not my tiny little will, but thy will be done. Because you see, as a result of that, we can embrace the wondrous surprise that's taking place. As I shared with you earlier, I had a calling to ministry when I was in my teens. Okay, I was 12, but that's a teen, isn't it? It didn't make a lot of sense to me, but I knew that there was something that was resonating in me that I could not ignore. Now, it wasn't until I was almost 50 years old and moved to Hawaii that I answered that call. And in many ways, I thought I was on a detour, but I was on the path all along. There were things to explore and experience. There was the resistance that came up within me. And round about a year ago, actually in October of 2019, I started hearing that call again, but in a whole new way. I want you to serve the higher self, the me that's within me, is telling me, I want you to serve in another place. And I thought, well, you know, I'm really digging being on the other side. It's a really glorious thing that we live Hawaii, yeah? And I heard that calling within me. And I woke up one morning pondering that. God, direct me to what it is next. And the phone rang. My mentor, was calling to say there's a position that's available in Texas, and I think you should apply. And of course, my first thought was, I don't want to leave Hawaii. And then my next thought was, well, this has been calling in me for some time. I went and have tried out for the position and got the position. So, as usual, what I thought was, here's where I am, this is where I want to be, and this is the trajectory I'm going to take. It's going to just be glorious. There's going to be so much love and wonder and amazement that'll take place in this church in Texas. It'll take place in me. It'll take place in the unity movement. This is going to be the trajectory that we're going to take. So at the beginning of March, my plans were to fly to Texas and take this position in a beautiful church called Grapevine. Amazing people. People who are in my heart and will be in my heart forever. And at the beginning of March of 2020 is when that was supposed to take place. Does anybody remember what was going on then? Was there anything of significance that was taking place in March of 2020? In addition to Geo moving to the big island. My first thought was, this was such a big mistake. You should not have done this. And then my next thought was, no, I've been called here. What's the divine idea that is waiting to express in me in this? I have been called here. There is something for me to do. There is a new possibility for me to lean into. And what I experienced over the course of the next few months was a connection with a lot of wonderful people, some teachings about sharing and unity that I had numerous people say to me, I've never known that. I've been in this church for years, and I never knew that was what Charles Fillmore was talking about. I never knew that was the way that you could actually understand Paul's letter to the Philippians. That's incredible. And after a period of time of recognizing that if I continued in that, it was going to release the body that I was. And I kept getting calls from the board at Unity Windward saying, come back, come back, come back. And so I did. Now, the interesting thing is that from the outside looking in, there were a lot of mistakes in that. There were a bunch of things that should have been doubted and not really gone through. What I see and know within the truth of me is that I was called to do that. It wasn't about the outer circumstances of not staying in a church for very long. It wasn't about the outer circumstances of a global pandemic that was taking place in March of 2020. It wasn't about that. It was about resonating and vibrating with the God within me and the God within others. So you see, I have pretty much two choices in every aspect of my life: heaven or hell. And in the event that I experience hell, how can I see that as a purifying process that's actually for me, that's lifting me into a new possibility? How can you see anything that may be experienced as hell in your life today, bringing you forward into a new possibility? How can this be a way that you can love that much more? That you can live all that much more? You see, this idea of what we're going through as a culture and in our world, maybe some of us are experiencing this on a personal basis, is known as the dark night of the soul. It's originally stated by a man named St. John of the Cross. It was actually spoken in Spanish. Noche oscura is what the dark night of the soul speaks to. St. John of the Cross is responsible for writing a huge amount of reflection and poetry. And I'd like to share with you a poem that he wrote as a Christian mystic in the 13th century. It's entitled, "Dig Here." She caught me off guard when my soul said to me, "Have we met?" So surprised I was to hear her speak like that, I chuckled. She began to sing a tale. There was once a man, a hardworking man, who used to worry so much because he could not feed and clothe his children and wife the way he wanted. There was a beautiful little chapel in the village where the man lived. And one day, while he was praying, an angel appeared, and the angel said, "Follow me." And he did. Out into the ancient forest. "Now, dig here," the angel said. And the man felt strength in his limbs he had not known since youth. And with just his bare hands, he dug deep and found a lost treasure. And his relationship with the world changed. Finding our soul's beauty does that. Gives us tremendous freedom from worry. "Dig here," the angel said, "in your soul, in your soul." Have we met? Have you met the truth of who you are? Are you willing to dig a little deeper in order to see the treasure? Because if you're not willing to dig, you can go ahead and push those doubts away. Push the idea that there's anything to be discovered here. Let's just pass by that. It's inconvenient. It might take too much time. Dig here. Dig deeply into the doubt and discover that there is an unforeseen, unexpected faith that resides within you. It's a faith that is bringing forth amazement and wonder. So you see, my trip to Texas, even though it had that planned trajectory, that even in unity we talk about what we think about, we bring about. I was wondering, what was I thinking to bring about this? A global pandemic. So, maybe each individual one of us may not be able to take full responsibility for that. However, we can take full responsibility to how we respond today. Whatever you think about, you bring about, and you can bring about amazement and wonder in your life and in this world. So what you think about is attracted to you. It's being brought to you, and you have the ability and the capacity to fire it up and bring it into amazing, wondrous divinity. Linda Martella-Whitsitt is the head of Silent Unity. She's responsible for the prayer arm of Unity. Linda once wrote, "Love's magnetizing power attracts me to people and situations that reflect harmony and unity, as well as those that appear to repel harmony and unity. Understanding this is understanding the law of attraction." So even though what we think about, we bring about, if we're getting a result that's different from what we had expected, it's an opportunity for healing. It's an opportunity to bring your divine power into here and now. Your divine power in alignment and in union with the Christ, infinite potential, wonder, delight. You have this power to attract good and only good in your life. This good that we can be is the manner in which we can be metallurgists in our life, that we can discover the treasure that resides within us. The Apostle Paul once said to his friends in the Thessalonica, "Rejoice always, pray without ceasing, in everything give thanks, for this is the will of God for you in Christ Jesus." Rejoice in whatever shows up. Because even though it may appear to be bad news, you are the good that's here in this world. You are the transforming power of this life. And in amazement, each of us can come into this new possibility. Charles Fillmore says that salvation is based solely on an inner overcoming, a change in consciousness. It is a cleansing of the mind through Christ. So whatever doubt you may have, I doubt you're going to clean it up by pretending like it's not there. Whatever doubt you may be experiencing in your life, I'm going to invite you to dig into it. I'm going to invite me to continue digging into it. At whatever doubt I may be showing up, there is an amazing wonder that's taking place. So although as human beings we can focus on the outer and the physical, as divine beings we are here to focus on the metaphysical. I hope that perhaps I've given you at least a little glimpse of what metaphysical does mean or can mean. I hope that you can recognize today that within you resides immense, amazing power in order to take hell in your life, in this world, and transform it into an amazement of heaven. Because you see, heaven is here, right now. Let's live that. Let's be that. And let's dig it, too. Thank you.